in an experimental submersible vessel that has not been approved or certified by any regulatory body and could result in physical injury, disability, emotional trauma, or death. Where do I sign?
CBS correspondent David Pogue reading from a waiver that OceanGate required its customers to sign before boarding the submersible. With the 5 passengers on board the Titan now presumed dead, there are significant questions as to whether that waiver will be enough to shield the company. Yes, the document appears to have gone into great detail about the risks of the journey. But does it really get OceanGate off the hook? The fact is, safety concerns have plagued this Titan sub for years. On a trip last summer, the Titan lost communication with its mothership for 2.5 hours in an alarming incident documented by CBS. Back in 2018, OceanGate fired former employee David Lockridge after he said he raised concerns about the safety of the Titan and advised the company to do more testing on the vessel's hull. Lockridge saying in court documents, quote, "The paying passengers would not be aware and would not be informed on this experimental design, the lack of non-destructive testing of the hull, or that hazardous flammable materials were being used within the submersible." Now, OceanGate CEO Stockton Rush, one of the 5 passengers presumed dead now, has long defended the safety of his submersibles. In 2017, he spoke out in support of the Cyclops 2, an earlier version of the Titan.
You believe the Cyclops 2 is pretty much invulnerable.
By the time we're done testing it, I believe it's pretty much invulnerable.
And that's pretty much what they said about the Titanic.
That's right. And I will go on all the first dives, put my money where my mouth is.
And he did. Still, there are serious questions about the equipment used to construct and operate the Titan. Speaking with David Pogue, Stockton Rush showed off some of the no-frills parts he used to build the sub, for which it charged passengers $250,000 apiece.
I got these from Camper World. We run the whole thing with this game controller.
Come on! But despite these safety concerns, OceanGate does have those signed waivers, and by all accounts, they did not sugarcoat the risks. Mike Reese, a writer for The Simpsons, was on board for a previous OceanGate voyage and said the waiver was extremely clear.
It is a very, very risky proposition. Anyone who booked this trip knew it was going to be risky. You sign a lengthy waiver that lists really 100 ways to die, things that could go wrong. So everyone walks into this with open eyes.
Now, CNN obtained the waiver, and they report it mentioned the word death 7 times. The waiver added, quote, "I've been informed about the nature of the operation and the risks it presents, including when diving below the ocean surface. This vessel will be subject to extreme pressure, and any failure of the vessel while I am on board could cause severe injury or death." And that was just one example of a potential catastrophic outcome the waiver outlined. Earlier this week, Pogue told NewsNation there were many others.
Several pages long, and it basically outlines paragraph by paragraph all the different things that could result in permanent disability or death. So they make very clear how dangerous this is.
So there seems to be little question that OceanGate warned of the risks, but is that enough? Let's ask Peter Tragos, a wrongful death and catastrophic injury attorney who handles cases with inherently dangerous activities. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Appreciate it. All right, so what do you think? Based on this waiver, is OceanGate covered here?
Thanks for having me, Dan. Yeah, it's a tragic situation that everybody just kind of fears when they go into something like this, and it is an inherently dangerous activity. But the big thing around the waiver is, was it a knowing waiver? What did they know? Because as you looked at some of the snippets of the waiver, it was informed, or they were informed of the risks and the dangers involved in this activity. What were they actually told? And was that spelled out in the waiver? Of course, there's pressure. Of course, there's risk if you're going to do a deep sea dive like this. But did they know about the lack of testing? When you watch some of those interviews and he says, when I'm done with the testing, it's going to be unsinkable or whatever verbiage he used. And in fact, that was not the case. So what were the passengers actually told that was referenced in the waiver?
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.